Welcome to Crimson Guitars, welcome to my home studio, welcome to the chaos that is the live stream. I say chaos and a cow runs into the side of the building. Literally. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there's some young cattle next to me and they're stampeding, so there we go. That's a beginning, isn't it? This is episode 34 of Luthiers Question Time with me, Ben Crowe. And this is it. We're here. I think there's something else going on live at the moment as well. So we'll see how many of us actually don't care about, international football, and we'll just wait to see what happens in the news. But it's all fun. If you have a question for me, let me know in the chat, in the comments, and we will see if we can get them answered. Predominantly guitar building, but we're here. And well, let's see what happens. So I have a bunch of questions. Richard Smith says, Ben, in the chat, question mark. Not yet, although I can write here, not yet. B. Okay, we're in. We have Lisa Green, we have Martin of the Nuclear Village, who is one of our YouTube members. Lisa Green, Richard Smith, SE Guitars, is on his way home driving, and he's currently going to be dropping in and out. He is one of our two fantastic moderators. Here is a question via our Discord, links in the description, etc. Ben, any chance we can submit edits to our bio write-ups? This is obviously to do with Great Guitar Build-Off and the over 400 people who entered into this year's main competition. So we can describe what we built rather than the dated, well, he says dating profiles that are currently there, which are also dated because, hey, you built it now. Yes, I would love for you, please, to send an updated profile of what the guitar is, how you feel about the instrument, how it went, what your... In fact, I should probably put together a set of questions. I'm going to forward that to Tom Webster. How's that? Who is the MD of Crimson for me, and we'll send out a mass email to everybody involved to ask for an update on everything, and that will come out soon. But yes, if you would like to jump the queue, then that is a very, very good question and valid. So yeah, that is from Climo Custom Guitars, or Climo Custom Guitars. Joe Smyjohn Jr. is coming with the first super chat of the evening. Good evening, Joe. Joe is a trucker, and no matter where he is on the road, always tunes in, which is excellent. I really do appreciate your support. Okay, the question is, good afternoon. Glad no technical difficulties today. Lol, you've done it. You've done it now. Something's gonna go wrong. Either it'll be a technical difficulty with the computer or the lights, or I don't know, my body. It's all fair game now. Thanks. Cheers. This time I set up the stream here on this internet with this line, and I haven't moved anything. I shut the computer down. It's all so... We are learning how finicky this thing is. We currently have 83 people viewing and only 29 likes. Come on, what do you want? Actual content before you hit that button? Okay, actual content coming on. Hand Tool Builds, again via Discord, says, hi Ben, based on your experiences setting up the Crimson Factory, as well as your home workshop, I like the way this question is hotting up. I don't read any questions beforehand, even if they have come through earlier, just because, well, I like the challenge. The question is, based on your experiences of setting up the Crimson Factory as well as your home workshop, do you have any tips, considerations, or resources regarding soundproofing a home basement workshop? First of all, I love the way you write. Tips, considerations, or resources regarding soundproofing. That's just fantastically well said. My wife just doesn't appreciate the soothing sounds of hand planes, chisels, and saws while she's trying to sleep. I wanted to scream the word sleep as loud as I could into the microphone, but I suspect I would lose some subscribers if I did that. Okay. it is so monumentally difficult to achieve what you are trying to achieve. And I am not the most, in spite of setting up the factory and my home workshop, the only soundproofing I've got in here is that sort of foam diffusing, those diffusing panels. And it's not here to soundproof the workshop, it is here to diffuse the sound and stop it being quite so bright for the filming process, essentially. Now, I have a problem with my workshop here in that they're single glazed windows and the neighbours can hear what's going on. There are at least single glazed windows along the side of the building that actually faces onto my neighbours. And I am seriously considering knocking those out and putting in double glazing because of the noise. I wonder how they feel on Sunday evenings at 10, 11 o'clock at night when I'm going long and they hear me talking away to you guys in, well, they know what I do, but still, it's weird, isn't it? So, that being said, you are far better off looking at people who set up studios and the like. I would say that just using diffusing panels, etc., won't actually do it. The problem that you have is your basement is connected to your house, or your house is connected to your basement, and the vibrations of the planes on the workbench will be felt through the floor. So whatever you do to stop the sound that is traveling through the air, you're going to have to do something to stop the vibrations that are physically on the things that you are touching and working on. So you will need to potentially reduce the size of the entire room by a good few inches by putting down battens, leaving, I suspect, an air gap as much as humanly possible, then putting down rubber matting underneath the workbench at least, and possibly under where you're working, where you're standing, which, to be frank, is better for you. Here's a workshop tip. Wear good, well-fitting shoes wherever possible. For a number of years, seriously, I had issues with my feet, and it was just because I was wearing shoes that didn't actually fit properly. And I thought it was usual to wake up at night with my feet in pain, because I stand up all day. Anyway, so that's the thing. The one thing I would say is be aware that it's not just the ceiling in between you and your wife that you have to worry about. It is the whole bang shoot. Damn fine question, though. Mofo Sonic has said, Ben, problem with neck dive revealed during dry fit of my 5-string bass. Should I insert a lead slug in a body chamber or extend the upper horn, which will ruin the body aesthetics? I would say lead slug. And before I forget, you guys need to Google. I saw a snail today online that had been cast. I think it was on Reddit actually. It had been a snail, but the front bit was a xenomorph from the Aliens franchise. Looks phenomenal. If you can Google that and put a link in the chat, that would make me very, very happy. It was incredible. Well, let's see if that made a difference. No audio, no visuals, no Ben, we're not live. Probably 10 minutes is in the past, what I can see. Okay. Oh. Okay. Now, are we live? Yay, we're live. That sucks. It did. Back again. Okay. Haha. Okay. So here, you guys are all here all the time, or at least fairly regularly. If the stream does fail for whatever reason, please let me know in the comments below. What I did this time was click stop, and restart the whole thing. Joe Smart John Jr. sent another super chat and said fixed, and then in caps, sorry, because of course his first question was what's going to be the technical difficulty of the day. Every single week there's a different technical difficulty, and it is starting to give me a nervous twitch. I don't like it. I don't like it. Okay, I'm not touching anything. I am sitting here watching the stream health section, and we will see what happens there. Borgonian Evolution says, I got a new hammer. Can I bonk it a few times and add some colour, maybe? Live again, we have Ben. Question. Okay, John Morris is a question. Hi, Ben. What are the best and worst gimmicks you've seen fitted on guitars by the manufacturer rather than aftermarket modifications? There is a single guitar that answers both of those questions in one space, and in my opinion, bear in mind I've built a few copies of these. It is the Matt Bellamy guitar built by Manson, and it is both the most gimmicky and useless and most amazing and awesome thing, and that is of course adding on the XY control pad system that controls all sorts of crazy things. And I say it is the best because in the right hands it can do some serious things, and Matt Bellamy is those hands. Very few other people can make it work properly now, and that's why it's the worst, because it's just a problem. Okay. Bob Hewitt has joined. He's another YouTube member. He says, I guess I missed the Gremlins. I don't. I really just don't. I'm not quite ready to give up. I think Akrivarai has been trying to convince me to use a different bit of software, and I will seriously consider that. Yeah. If you don't know about the sunk cost fallacy, it is essentially when you've spent a lot of money on something, you want to keep on using it even if it's not working out, i.e., hey, I started this business, it's doing XYZ, but I'm losing money, or at least not making very much money, or whatever. Should I stop? Yes, you should, but I spent 20 grand doing it, or whatever. I have, and it works not just with money, it works with time. Hey, I've spent the last 40 years of my life trying to be a professional guitarist. I'm going to keep on trying. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say here, but with this software, it costs quite a bit, but it's also obviously causing me more troubles, and I care more about being professional than I do about the money that I spent on this damn software that's supposed to be the best in the world. Anyway, other gimmicks that I think are... I really don't like the handheld in the Ibanez. It's Steve Vais or Satriani's. One of those. I haven't looked at Ibanez in a serious way for a long time. And then there are those guitars that have... Oh, and while we're on those guys, one of them put blood inside of the finish of a guitar. That was a bit gimmicky. That was a worst one as well. Honestly, the word gimmick has negative connotations, and there aren't many gimmicks, I think, that are good. Anyway, the other thing, in my opinion, is those guitars where the entire instrument comes apart, and you've got the neck and the fretboard and the body and just the whole thing's here's an exploded guitar. I just don't think that could be strong enough. But I could be proven wrong. Divergent Guitars has come in with a super chat and said, for my first scratch build of a neck, would you recommend using some sort of fret sawing jig to do the fret slot sawing, or just freehand and slowly? Thank you very much for your super chat. I would seriously... It's a difficult question. It depends on your personal knowledge of and experience with tools. Cutting fret slots by hand is not difficult if you have practiced with a saw and know how to cut square to the wood, basically. That's it. So if you are prepared to sit there and practice cut, say 3 or 4 guitars worth of fretboards before you go, do it by hand. if you are able to set up a jig, i.e. literally just a block of wood with a couple of magnets on it to hold your saw. I mean, this is something that I should probably say. It's so simple that anybody could make it, but I guaranteed if we make it, people would rather buy it than make one themselves. A couple of magnets on a piece of wood that's got a radius to match the normal fretboard, and that holds the saw flush and square. And you put that exactly where your mark needs to be, and you cut down, and you're okay. Alternatively, yes, Crimson do sell a fantastic fret slotting jig system, but if you're not going to build more than a few guitars, honestly, while I would like you to give me all of your money, it's probably not required. I would rather you bought a pre-slotted fretboard from somebody if you aren't happy cutting slots by hand, and stroke or made a simple jig to do it yourself. Okay, Joe Smart John Jr. has come back in with another $5 super chat. You are keeping me in coffee, sir. I really appreciate it. He says, that number 7 or 8 hand plane behind, what brand is that? Is that a Stanley? Yes, this is the number 7. My number 8 is at Crimson headquarters, and it looks a little bit strange because it is a particularly old one, 1880 to 1892 or thereabouts. I really need to actually date all of them, but I'm collecting a particularly old version. Yeah, I think it's Type 4s or Type 5s of the Stanley planes, because I am at heart a collector, and I have vintagetoolshop.com, and these things come through, and I have no self-control. Okay, here is a super chat from Phil Girk. I'm not sure if I mentioned this during the section where it wasn't actually live, but if you absolutely want me to see the question, send it via super chat. I will absolutely see it that way. If not, there are lots of questions, and I just physically can't see them all. But Phil Gurka sent a $10 super chat. Thank you very, very much. He says, Ben, I just bought my first hand plane because of you, sir. A Miller's Falls 14. That is a damn fine tool. So Miller's Falls are named by how long they are. So you have just got yourself a 14-inch plane. Which is sort of number 5-ish, I suppose. Yeah, there we go. So it's a number 5 or a 5.5. Just a little bit longer. Miller's Falls are arguably better tools than Stanley. They don't come around very often, but by gum, they made them incredibly well. There are also 2 different levels of quality in them, but even the supposedly lesser quality are better than most Stanleys you will see. They're phenomenal tools. A Miller's Falls 14, what a rabbit hole you've sent me down, my friend. I love it. Unrelated, how tall should my volute be? Okay. Yes, it's a rabbit hole, and it's just a glorious, glorious rabbit hole to get into. I'll show you this book in a second, actually. How tall should your volute be? It is about adding mass behind the nut, while we don't want it to be ugly, of course not, but we also don't want that weak point to have an issue. So if you have a multi-laminate neck, then you don't need to worry too much. Definitely have a volute. A guitar without a volute looks naked to me, but it does not have to be huge. I generally say, I've never actually ever thought about it, but it's about 8 to 10 millimeters higher than the depth of the neck underneath the first fret. Generally, it goes up about 10 millimeters and then goes down. Your volute wants to be behind the nut line. You do not want your neck, where your playing surface is, to be thicker. So, for example, your depth of the first fret needs to be at the first fret, not the third. It can't go like that. Yeah, there we go. Rabbit hole and hand tools. I have a tool shop. I have sold more than 40,000 tools. Sold. We haven't sold. We've got 8,000 in stock. So I've sold 32,000 vintage tools or used tools, and I still buy books about hand tools. I am a huge fan of Paul Sellers. If you have not seen his channel, go and check it out. I bought this from his website. I don't think he knows I exist. I spoke to him once. This is not a sponsored thing in any way, shape, or form. It is the fact that I saw on, I think it was the woodworking subreddit, that he had written a book, and it was called Essential Woodworking Hand Tools. And, you know, I stopped browsing Reddit and went to Paul Sellers' website, which is, hold on, where are we? This is scintillating, isn't it? You can Google it. Rokesmith Limited, apparently. Rokesmith. This was copyrighted in 2016. I don't know how I didn't know this existed. Anyway, I ordered it last week, and I realised that it had arrived and been stashed with my boys' birthday presents. Both of them arrived in different years, but not too many days apart from each other in July. And my present was left in the box next to theirs. It's terrible. Joe Smart Georgina's come in with $5 again, thank you, and said, I got lucky and picked up an old Stanley No. 5 hand plane for $50. Currently in the process of restoring it. A lot of rust to clean off. Cleaning rust off an old tool, I am going to be doing. I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. I've got a fantastic, probably a couple 100-year-old Spears of a panel plane here, and it is intensely rusty. Hold on. I'm going to come over here, grab these, then I'm going to grab the plane, then I'm going to check that we're still live. We're still live. So here's the plane. Look at that. It's intensely rusty. I am going to restore this on the channel. If plans go according to plan, it will be Tuesday, a week on Tuesday. You can use a wire brush in a hand drill or on a bench grinder or something like that. The problem is that process just throws rusty, dusty nastiness into the air. It's nasty stuff. It's not good for you. And if you have a little bit of time, I would suggest getting a very cheap engineer's scraper. And this is the chisel-headed one. It's not sharp. It's got a 2mm or so flat on that end. And that just scrapes the rust straight off and leaves a beautiful patina, but scrapes the bulk of it away. And then at that point, you can use a wheel to get the rest of the dust off. The rest of the rust off, sorry. You can use a chisel that you've blunted on a grinder to do the same sort of thing. Just polish the edges and make sure that there aren't any jagged bits to scratch your plane. This is optional when you're restoring planes. When you're restoring a saw, the heat from the silicone wheels that I normally use can actually buckle the blade. It is much better to scrape it away when it's supported on a nice flat piece of wood than it is to use one of those mechanical methods. Brandy B is coming with $5. Thank you very much, Brandy, and said, what might be the best way to accomplish air filtration in the shop? I'm tired of cork, sawdust, boogers, and asthma from sawdust. I'm on a strict budget. Okay. Those nasty old sawdust boogers. Okay. There are obviously, I don't have one in this workshop, but you've seen them in my videos based from Crimson HQ, air filters that go in the ceiling, and they are £200 or £300, or probably $300 or $400 jet air filters. They've got a big fan in them, and that fan pulls all of the air in your workshop through a couple of different filter medias. One is straight on the inlet. There is a square of filter media. It's basically a cloth. The big particles of dust get caught in that, and then there are some bags inside, and then the clean air comes out. It's expensive. What is not expensive is the replacement media for one of those things. You are a maker. You have access, I am sure, to plywood and screws and nails and things like that. It is easy to make yourself a box the same size as the filter media that you can buy for probably 1/20th of the cost of the whole machine. A fan is a different story. Fans are more expensive, especially ones that you want to, that will last you forever. However, it's not, you can get these things, well, I suppose it depends on where you live. A large number of you live in the sort of very, very warm areas of the United States of America. Looking at my analytics on YouTube and all that jazz, you will be able to find a used fan, a used box fan at a car boot sale or a market or something like that, probably for $20, $25 or less, I would say. And if you play around with the different filter media in there, you can make yourself an air filtration system for under $50 and a couple of hours. And I mean, that's a pretty good deal, isn't it, really? You're using the proper filter media that comes with those things, but you're not paying the full price of the machine. I would do that I should do that, really. I really should. I mean, I need one. I was just going to bring... Anyway, Joe Smyjon Jr. has come back in with another super chat and said he's using electrolysis to clean off the rust. That is... that's the smart man's way of doing it. It really is. So yeah, electrolysis is essentially you put it in a bath and apply electricity and the positive, negatives, etc. Pulls the rust off. When you take it out of the water, you need to make absolutely certain that you very carefully dry and then oil every single bit. And I find that process takes just about as long as it takes me to... that takes about as long as I would have spent in just cleaning it dry on a wheel. I've just met somebody over the weekend actually who cleans parts, predominantly gearboxes I think, using tumbling machines. And he popped into the tool shop, and before he left I gave him a chisel and a number 4 plane to put through his drums of ceramic media to see what happens. Okay. Brandy B says, I'm a fan of that plan. I am a fan of your puns. Fantastic. See what I did there? Crikey. Okay. Michael Kowalski, that question is not allowed. Apparently we're not allowed talking about tonight. Football. We're not. Lisa Green says, a vacuum cleaner is not expensive. I use one as close as possible to my work. The proximity is important. That is a good point. So I don't have dust extraction over my bench. I really would like to have a thin hose on some sort of a pivotable arm that could just go wherever I wanted it. But inevitably it's in the way of the camera, and my filming is more important than me, really. So, yeah. That. I also have a very, 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 very powerful fan that I bought probably 15 years ago, and probably even more than that, to be honest. It's always been in the corner of my home workshops, and it went to Crimson, and it's still going, and I've just got it there. And I'm going to put a hole in the wall somewhere, and that will essentially vent all of the air in this workshop in about 30 seconds flat. And as you can see, I do actually have a bit of a dust problem. Why weren't you locked down? That's why. That needs to be looked at. Okie dokie. Michael Kowalski says, hi Ben, second question, why aren't you watching the match? I really have no interest in football or almost any sport imaginable. Okay, rewind. I did not get along with my brother. I do not get along with my brother. And my brother, who came before me, he's about 8 years older than me, was your quintessential Zimbabwean Rhodesian. He was Rhodesian, actually. Cricket, football, no, not football, rugby player, you know. And he was a bit of a bully and a bit of a prick. And I did not like him. And I did not do anything that he was interested in. And, you know, I'm just happy being me. And I immerse myself in making and guitars and tools and business and learning and writing and all of that jazz. I don't, other than, I'm really tempted to watch Formula One again. Does that make me a pretentious arsehole? It's about the only sport I've ever shown any interest in whatsoever. Anyway, there we go. Robert R says, Alex Steele uses a self-contained unit like a space helmet that might work and a shop vac while wearing the unit. Yes, I also do have wood turners use those quite a lot. They're expensive, £200 to £300 for a good one. Again, I've had a couple through the tool shop, which is great. Okay. Questions. Michael Kowalski says, fine. Ha. Have a good night and greetings from Poland. Cheers. I assume he's going off to read the match, watch the match. Griever says, new rules, no football, no watches. Watches? Have I introduced you to my friend Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch? This watch went to the moon, gosh darn it. I really messed up the other day during the Friday live stream, and this is the last talk about watches. I said I was talking about the fact that I would love to buy a flat, or 2 or 3 or 5 over the years, in which to rent out to our students, because at the moment they are just willy-nilly staying with, you know, whoever we can find them accommodation with, be it a hotel or a pub, or some rooms are rented out, etc. But I love the idea of myself owning a flat and kitting it out to be the perfect flat for somebody coming on a guitar building course, with a guitar in there and an amp and books on guitar building and, you know, proper art on the walls and stuff that, you know, would just be a super cool place to stay. And I said, and this is the statement that I regret, I said, I'm thinking about selling a few of my watches to buy a flat. And then I went on. What I should have said is, I'm thinking about massively downsizing my watch collection to scrape together the minimum deposit that I can get so that I can get a mortgage on a flat. I do not have £120,000 worth of watches. Nowhere near. In case anybody, and you know, at 2 o'clock in the morning, those things you're like, wow, I sounded like a prick when I said that. That was one of those moments. So if you were listening and you heard that, this is me saying no. It's a long-term collection, and I'm going to be selling a bunch of my planes as well, probably including this Stanley number 9, actually, if anybody's interested. That's a £1,400 plane if it's a day. Rewind. No football, no watches. Ha! Borgonian Evolution says, new rule, no rules. We want total crimson anarchy. I like it. Okay. Jeremy Cole says, I do not understand watches. I couldn't remember to wear one when I had one. I only consistently knew what time it was once I got a cell phone. It's It's not about the watch. A lot of people wear them to say, hey, I've got a very expensive watch on and I'm cool and you should like me as a result of that. And that's a problem. And it's something that I worry about. I love the craftsmanship, the precision, it is just utterly amazing to me that human beings can make something mechanical that does what these things do, and that blows me away. I don't need to have 15 or 20 watches, or more. I don't. That is just superfluous and stupid, but I love looking at them. Anyhow, really. Lisa Green says, did you do any more on the Galaxy thingy? Can't remember the name now. Nebula. Nebula is there. Fresh out of the spray booth. Fresh. She's been curing for 2 or 3 weeks now from the very last buffing, which means that I am perfectly happy to get her on the bench and get moving. And that is what is going to be happening tomorrow. Hopefully the first episode in that guitar is the next episode in that guitar build is going live on Saturday, i.e. in 6 days. So I'm going to have to crack on with that. Nick Guitar says, love the Speedmaster. It's utterly... just an incredible watch. Just absolutely incredible. And, you know, I have seen watches at twice the price that are half the quality. In fact, quite a few. Creever says Formula One is even more lame than football. Just some people in fast cars driving in circles. Yeah. Wasn't me, says kind of late. Sorry if someone has asked, but any updates on the voting situation in GGBO? Okay, nobody has asked yet. That's a good point. We went in with the manufacturers of the app who said that there was less than 0.5% variation in the votes from people who had mistakenly clicked twice on things. I was one of those, but it was more, hey, people are saying you can vote twice. Can I vote twice? Yes, I can definitely vote twice. Now, I must say also that out of the 5 or 6 people in the office, 4 of them couldn't. They went after 24 hours and tried to vote a second time on the computers where they had already voted on their choices, because hey, we're all fans. And most of them couldn't. So it's a strange thing. Now, there is only one way to make voting utterly 100% free of any confusion stroke possibility for manipulation, and that is to have every single person who votes sign up, click a verification email, prove that they're not a robot, and then vote. And we had, over the 4 or 5 day period where we were voting, we had over 120, I think it was even 140,000 people visit the Great Guitar Build-Off website to vote. It was massive. And we've looked at, not only have we looked at the number of people, the number of unique people that were visiting the site and clicking and looking at pages and voting and all that jazz, we did the same based on the number of people that come to Crimson Guitar's website, and essentially the numbers, or at least the percentages of people and what they were doing, matched very, very closely to the main website, the Crimson Guitar's website. Essentially, it is a pity that there is one person that I know of who publicly went and said, hey, I'm losing. Even if you voted for me, you can go and vote again because the system's broken and you can cheat for me. And those votes were removed. And yeah, it's just the way. But yeah, I don't know how we're going to do it next year. But we will see. Now we know this is a problem. I'm interested to see what technical problems we have next year. Jerry Smite John Jr. is coming with another super chat. He really is keeping me in coffee. And has a fantastic comment. your watch-inspired build, which I have publicly stated is going to be one of my next builds, make it a 12-string guitar? Question mark. I really wasn't planning it, but I'm incredibly tempted, of course. 12 indices around a watch. Yeah, damn fine idea. Okay, Leighton Matthews, you are the man. F1 is the best, aside from NHL hockey, of course. Canada, I assume. Get into MotoGP, that's way better than F1. That's from Mark Ellis. Richard Garner thinks that Formula One is the dullest of all motorsports. Formula One is all about technical stuff, so it's understandable. It's the same reason why I love watches. It's the technicality and the fact that human beings can do this. A pivotal point in my entire life was when I realized that if a human being, if something existed, a bandsaw or a light bulb or a computer, a human made that thing, or at least made the thing that made the thing that made the thing, and if a human was able to make that thing, I'm a human, right? I can do that thing too, if I so choose. And that was literally mind-blowing. Okay. SC Guitar, Stephen says he does enjoy F1 as well. Lisa Green says, hey guys, is it my imagination or is the volume dropping? Now I'm going to click some things and see. Apparently the stream is excellent. Tell me. So the last time I clicked on this, well, let me know in the comments, is the volume dropping or what are we doing? How are we doing? 12 string, yes, a 12 string would be nice by itself without a 6 string attached. This is true. Tia Buxton says MotoGP is awesome? Question mark. Okay, 12 string guitar with 60 frets for every minute. That was from Wasn't Me, and I'm saying nope. 24 is about my bag, yo. Maybe 30 if somebody really pays through the nose for me to eat my words. Inky Guitar says, make it a glueless guitar. See my email. Yes, I do need to check that. I haven't checked emails in a couple of days now. Dances with Aardvark says, how about arranging a Luthiers tool build off? For example, a precision router base. That's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea. Joe Smart John Jr.'s come in and said the volume is fine. Thank you very much. Honestly, I think that the volume problem is probably me. The microphone is just here, and it's probably me moving around while that is happening. I am waiting for a new USB interface to plug an Aston mic into the computer, and that is on its way. So we'll see. We'll have much, much better audio in the not too distant future. By the way, if you are remotely interested in guitar building and have not yet started downloading the podcast, which is this distilled live stream, then I'm disappointed, really. A Luthiers tool build-off could be interesting. I do have a vested interest in telling people to go to crimsonguitars.com to buy tools because we make most of them, and I don't really want to make people go and make their own because, without Crimson none of these videos would happen. But yeah, it is interesting. Bob Hewitt, I did not say that. He says yes, a 12 string with 24 frets. It's like, why not? I'll think about it. I will think about it. Radbot1 says, I'd love to see you build a semi-hollow body with pressed, laminated top and bottom. Not carved, like a 335, but with your own style. I do think that could be quite cool. I have got some half-baked ideas on building an entire guitar out of paper mache, and that would be the perfect instrument for that. There is furniture that was made 200 or 300 years ago in museums out of paper mache that, yeah, still there, still good. Mark Ellis says, "Hi Ben, any recommendations for a gouge for shaping? Nebula looks incredible. Thank you very much." Okay, a gouge, I would say you want to have around about an inch or maybe 3/4 of an inch wide, and a number 6, anywhere between a number 5 or a number 8 sweep, i.e. the sweep is the curve, and you want a curve that is relatively... I know what the problem is. Hold on. Please forgive me. I'm not getting my messages into WhatsApp because the Wi-Fi was still hooked up to a Wi-Fi that's been disconnected to plug the computer into the cable. So, boom, there we go. I've now got a bunch of messages from Crevery and Stephen that I hadn't seen before. I can see Joe's plane, which is a nice... Wow. That's a really nice plane, Joe. Yeah, nice one. Okay, you can't see that though, so we'll move on. I'm going to get back to the bunch of questions that I haven't seen now, but let us just say... Gouge for shaping, yes. So it really is number 6 or so sweep. You want a relatively curved gouge so that you can remove a lot of material, but you don't want it too curved. A U shape is for removing a lot of material, but then you've got a lot of finishing to do. Vulcan Essen, how's it going, Vulcan? He sent €5 and said, "Hi Ben, when cutting an angle without a bandsaw, what would be the correct method to make it really plain? For example, cutting the break angle on the neck. Cheers." Okay. These cows are going insane. Even when I am using a bandsaw, I always I always leave 2 or 3 millimeters of space in case I go off-piste and it's not square and I need to plane things down. I would much rather spend a couple of minutes with a hand plane than have a headstock that needs an extra veneer that I was not planning for. Now, what is the correct method? It's almost impossible to say. There's many different ways. I would suggest that, well, really, it's just a big old hand saw. Mark exactly where you want to be, and then be very, very careful about it, leaving enough room to play. If you are not comfortable with saws and don't have a huge amount of experience, you can go in with a brass-backed saw and cut a little way in with that on one side, and then cut a little way in on the other side of the headstock, and then put the neck in a vise or clamp it to a bench or something, and then use those as guiding marks to guide a standard panel saw down. That is a technique that I've used before when hand cutting. I think I'm lying to you. I don't think I've ever done that actually. Anyway, route down one side, route down the other side, and then use that to guide your saw. I've done it somehow, somewhen, for a thick piece of wood, but it wasn't for a whole guitar body, so I don't know when I did that. Anyway, Joe Smythe John Jr. is coming with a $10 super chat. Thank you. I mean, thank you. Okay. He says, "I have a set of Wood River carving chisels, still new, unopened, to send to replace the 3 empty slots behind you, but these are meant for fine detail carving." I would love to say yes, and I will say yes, thank you very much. I have already, I suspect, got something destined for those slots, but I would love... I've been hearing huge amounts of things about Wood River. They are apparently very good tools. They're not available in the UK market. I think I mentioned this in the last stream as well, actually. Now, the last thing I need is more chisels or more tools for that matter. I am the luckiest luthier alive in that my situation has ended up being what it currently is. But if you want to send them to me, I would happily say thank you very much. Yeah, meant for fine detail carving sounds right up my street. Rob Tootle says superbikes or even sidecars are better than Formula One. I have enjoyed watching superbikes, I must say. Yeah. Spike the Frugal Fixer says the builder's choice matters most to me now. I do agree. So the builder's choice voting is going on, i.e. all of the builders in the GGBO competition are now voting for who they think should win. And it's a sort of side competition that only came about very recently, but we think that it's a damn fine idea, and it came from you guys, the viewers, and yeah, it's really good. Okay. Spike the Frugal Fixer has a live stream opening his latest box from Crimson tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time. I don't mind you guys advertising in the chat. That makes sense. You've got an essential freight leveling and dressing toolkit, I believe. That was one of the spot prizes in the Grey Guitar Build-Off competition. There's a bunch of spot prizes going through. Grooving Drum says, hi Ben, in my vacation I'm building a number 4 Strat style with flamed maple and black Carina. I would like to lighten the black Carina a lot. Is this achievable? Yes, you can either... Well, bleach is your best friend, basically. You can use bleach or ammonia, and these things will lighten most woods. Just Google bleaching wood and you'll have many different options available to you. There is a powder used by beekeepers. It's a very, very light acid. I can't remember exactly what it's called at the moment. It should come up with the Google search, and I've tried that fairly unsuccessfully actually in the past. But I now get a beekeeping catalogue come through once a year, so there's that. But yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. Joel Shapiro says, question, as a player with some ideas and several injuries that need to be accommodated, how would you suggest I go about finding somebody to build a custom bass? What are the questions? First of all, come to me, period. Seriously, come to us at Crimson Guitars. Obviously, I would love to have your business. If you would rather stay in the country where you're at, I, again, absolutely understand, and that's all good. The questions are, you need to find a luthier who actually cares and wants to work with you to do something different, and somebody who knows the basics of ergonomics. Many guitar builders build one thing and they build that one thing very well, and that's what they do. They aren't interested in experimentation. Now, we're in a different world. When I started building, ergonomics was not a thing. I remember watching Ahula on the Building the Ergonomic Guitar forums come up with a lot of the things that are now Strandberg guitars, etc. And it's become more acceptable, and a lot more people know, at least intellectually, what all of those arguments are and why, because it's become popularized. So it should be fairly easy to find somebody who can build something custom to deal with you, or to deal with your particular issues. So yeah, you just need to have somebody who's open to try, I would say. Tim Sterner Miller says, hey, how about some guitar talk? No. Special considerations for electric 12 strings. I always struggle with the bridge placement. I think I answered this again last week to somebody else. I always struggle with the bridge placement and the intonation. For some reason, the 12 strings, I'm always just a tad short, and it causes problems. So place your bridge in, but don't. I would string the guitar up without installing the bridge properly. Have it on some sort of a movable bit of wood or something somehow, so that you can be absolutely certain that it is in the correct place from an intonation point of view. That's a thing. Carbon fiber stiffening rods. Absolutely. Dual action truss rods, certainly. Make certain to glue to put glue in the fret slots. It's not actually gluing the frets, it's just filling the slots so that the neck has even more structural integrity. The bottoms of fret slots, if they're left open, gives you a slightly weaker neck, and you can feel it in some guitars, and I think even hear it in the way it moves. So yeah, check it. Okay, Joe Smite John Jr. sent another chat and said, I just emailed a picture of the chisel set. I got the brand wrong, though. Windsor Design, not Wood River. I've never heard of Windsor Design. Let's see if that gets sent through. Maybe Stephen can send through that image, and I'll have a look. But I'm very, very intrigued. Nick Riley's come in with a $5 question, a $5 super chat, sorry, and said, I've got a question, a wiring question. I seem to have a hard time getting solder to stick for grounds on pots. Is there a trick I'm missing? Okay. One, your soldering iron is potentially too not powerful enough. If you've got a 12.5 watt, I think mine are 25 watt. Wow. I use a 40 watt soldering iron, and even that it struggles a little bit. Always pre-tin before you start fiddling around with the actual wires. So what you've got is your soldering iron. You put some solder on the iron, hold that on the piece that you want to put the solder on. That will warm up a little bit. You put the solder near the tip of the soldering iron, and when that flashes off and sinks into the pot or onto the pot, etc., that is tinned at that stage. Another thing is consider your solder. There are different qualities of solder. There are different types of solder, and I use incredibly cheap solder from Silverline. I mean, budget stuff, but it has, for whatever reason, it's got the flux that makes it flow inbuilt into the core, and whatever's in this solder just makes it work easier. I've had some vintage lead solders, which you're not supposed to use anyway, that just won't work. So maybe your iron is not quite powerful enough. Maybe your solder is not modern solder with flux in a part of it. So the flux, well, I've said that, flux makes it flow. And leaded solders is just lead, and you have the flux as a separate thing. And maybe it's the technique. So between those three things, you should be okay. Damn fine question, Nick. Thank you very much. That is one that definitely needs to go into the book. Ooh. Craig Manson, question. Ever played with a fractal vise like was just restored on Hand Tool Rescue? They're becoming popular in the 3D printing world and look like it would be useful for guitar holding. I was sent that video by a friend, and I asked him how he was, and he says, well, I was fine until I saw this video and realized I needed one of these vices in my life. And I felt exactly the same. I've never seen one in person. I think that Hand Tool Rescue is a fantastic channel. He's a really cool dude. And I want one. with flaming passion. It causes a stirring deep inside. I've never seen one. I didn't realise that people made them, actually. I didn't realise there was a version available, a modern version available. It's just amazing. Joe has come back and with another $5 super chat and said, solder sticks better if the surface is lightly sanded first. That is a good point. Particularly chromed 3-position toggle switches, Les Paul type switches. Those I've often had to sand or even file a texture into the end where I want to attach the ground wire. So that is another thing. Maybe if you sand it or file the pot, even using a lower powered soldering iron, you will be more successful. So there we go. Looks like I'm building a 12-string guitar next. Or soon. Okay, Lisa Green says, the Crimson site is not up to scratch in my honest opinion. Lisa, I need to talk to you. We are working on it massively. If you haven't been on there in the last 3 weeks, please go. Have a look at it now and tell me what you think. I had a brainstorming session with Tom and Sam a couple of weeks ago now, 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks. And we changed a lot of it, and a lot of other jobs have been done. There still are not gallery pages properly for the guitars. The whole guitar side of things is severely lacking. But any of you watching stroke listening to this, if you have ideas for the website, things that you would like to see, things that you think are important to be there that currently aren't, please email us, stream@crimsonguitars.com. Bear in mind it is a Shopify site. We used to have a WordPress site that was a lot prettier and a lot more based on galleries and guitars and all of that stuff that is really cool. However, it died under the sheer weight of people and the online shop, and we've had to go with a Shopify based system because it's a business and it needs to sell the stuff that's on there. We are now trying to make the Shopify site pretty with galleries and things, but your input is incredibly valuable, and thank you for volunteering. I really appreciate it, Lisa. You're awesome. But yes, I absolutely do agree. Everything keeps on breaking. Everything breaks and needs to be rebuilt from scratch. And it's all, we get in there. Vulcan Essen has come back in with a €5 super chat. Thank you very much, Vulcan. He says, hi Ben, when shooting for a shredder's action, is there something special to be considered for the fretwork aside from fall away? Cheers, V. You've got me there. I was going to suggest fall away. I was like, ooh, I know what to say here. That fall away is absolutely essential. Yes, obviously. Fine adjustments with the truss rod to dial that in are absolutely essential. Do not forget the radius. I normally don't bother too much matching the radius of the bridge with the radius of the sort of last fret or thereabouts, or try and, if it's a compound radius, trying to work out what that would be that far away and all that jazz. When you're going for a super low action, that actually becomes an issue. The nut. Your nut slots, seriously, cut them as low as you humanly can. That is pretty much the most important bit of this. Okay. Let me see. Okay, this is a question from Borgonian Evolution. Hey Ben, I came across painting videos where they painted over water drops sprayed on the project. I love that effect. It comes out cool as all get out. Maybe you could try it on a build in the future. Cool as all get out. Damn freaking straight it is. I've seen, it must have been on Instagram or something, I've seen videos of people doing that, and it is incredibly cool. Good suggestion. Very good suggestion. Kane Harkins says, how are you enjoying being back more often into Crimson, even though it was shocking to see the state of your studio when you showed it? Not only that, loving the format of the What's on the Bench, of the new What's on the Bench, I assume. I'm happy. I'm really, really happy. It's one thing talking to you guys, and before I started the live streams, I wasn't actually interacting with you guys. I was just, talking to a camera. And we're all aware of that sort of shut-in isolation sort of thing that's been going on for the last couple of years. And yeah, it's really, really good being back and seeing people and talking to people, meeting students coming through. We've got next week there's going to be actually quite a fair few students in the school, and yeah, it's awesome. It really is awesome. My studio is slowly being turned into an office, and I am taking Talitha's old office downstairs. She is very happy working from home, and I'm very happy with her working from home because she actually works a whole hell of a lot more. And yeah, does so happily. So yeah, essentially, I'm going in a couple of times a week, and it's great. I'm probably going to actually do a build or two there at some point in the not too distant. So yeah, we'll see. But thank you for your support. So Windsor Design, it's a wood carving set. In all seriousness, I would find somebody else to give those to. If you're not going to use them, find somebody who is in need, and donate them that way. I have at least 120 incredibly fine vintage carving tools just here, and that's not considering the 40 or 50 that are in a drawer over there. I really don't need them, but I do, Joe, appreciate the offer. Thank you very much. Now let us see. James Dawes. This is a would you rather. Would you rather make a 16-string guitar like a 12-string for an 8-string, or a headless ukulele? I'm tempted to make both as a double neck. Double whammy. So I have made a 14-string guitar, like a 12-string, but 14. And a 16-string could be incredibly interesting, but in exactly the same way that I argue against building left-handed guitars, I would have to have an end user in mind. If I have a strange guitar that I want to build, I end up keeping it and playing it and loving it. I cannot play 7 or 8 strings. It would not, yeah. No, thank you. Okay. Okay. Here we go. This is a question from B55 Sedel on our Discord channel, the Crimson Guitars Discord channel. It says, hello, Mr. Crowe, and greetings from Lawrence, Kansas, USA. I have a problem with my Dream Telecaster. It plays wonderfully, but has a kink in the neck that causes problems with fretting the high E string around the 12th fret. A truss rod adjustment won't fix it. I would like to fix the neck that is on it. It is a maple fretboard. Would you recommend a level or refret or a steam pressing? Thank you so much. It's your very first place. It sounds like you've just got a high fret or two. And yeah, essentially my fret rocker spot is still empty. I have the tools. I'm going to do a tool unboxing video for Tuesday. Fret rocker to see if you've actually got a high or low fret, etc. But yeah, a level crown and polish is 100% your first and probably only call. Steam pressing, etc. is an impossibility. Now you guys are going to send me links to people who've actually succeeded in changing a neck. Wood wants to do what it's going to do. And if you have a kink in the neck and it's the wood itself saying, hey, I'm going to be this shape, ain't nothing you're going to do that's going to change that. Your only option is to take the frets out and sand/plane down the fretboard so that it's perfectly flat, and then refret if the neck itself is doing that. And there's a chance that even won't work because the wood's going to carry on trying to move. It depends. But no, it sounds to me like it's just a level crown and polish, and you should be done. Either take it to somebody who has everything and can do it, or go to Crimson and get an essential fret leveling and dressing toolkit, such as Joe has just got and will be unboxing on his channel live tomorrow. I think tomorrow. Okay. Ben, have you tried the Dominion voting machines? I've heard they're really great for voting several thousand times. I suspect that is a political comment. With GGBO, it needs to be, as straight as humanly possible. And careful, you might get sued. Here's a question. As a player with some ideas, how would a custom guitar builder suggest I go about... Oh, I've already read that. Did I misread your earlier question, Joel Bass? As a player with some ideas, how would a custom guitar builder... Freaking me out. Okay. Yeah. Go to somebody who can clear. In my earlier answer, I think I misread that, and you said you've got some health issues, some physical ergonomic issues that needed customizing to deal with. But in this question that I'm reading here, it's not the case. So yeah, forgive me. Hey Ben, will you build the Star Wars twin neck guitar, and what design ideas do you have for it? I really want to build that. That's a question from Leo Zach. It is gonna be. Well, the design is there. I want to make it out of Perspex. Probably not the neck, but 4mm or 6mm standard sheet white Perspex. I think that would be cool as all hell. Okay. Huh. So apparently the stream froze right after the xenomorph part. I don't know. Alrighty. Okay, give me questions, everybody, or I'm going to bed. Nick Guitar says, I bought the Hosco nut slotting files. Expensive, but they work very well. Not only do they work very well, they're going to last you forever. Joe Smidron Jr. says, X-Wing or Millennium Falcon? Guys, seriously? So, neither. It's inspired by, but not derivative of. So it's a twin neck with, in the style of Star Wars. That was the initial design, and then I actually went and drew something that was even better than that, and I've got the full-scale plans, etc. But talking about Star Wars, through VintageToolshop.com, every now and then, my staff don't have the time, and I have to go and collect tools or something. And to be frank, it gets me out of the workshop and talking to people, and it's a totally different world than this. The other week, I went to buy some tools, and it turned out to be an entire house clearance, really, of beautiful paintings and art and all sorts, and vintage toys. There's a train set. I mean, just amazing. And they said, oh, and by the way, if you want to go and dive in the dustbin outside, my brother-in-law just threw out some Lego. I did. I have kids. We've got a shed full of Lego. We love the stuff. And he had thrown away in a bag, so it was clean, an entire Star Wars set. I can't remember the fighter, but it's this freaking big, that my wife and youngest have been putting together for the last couple of days. It's insane. It's not only insane, it's a vintage set worth about 300 or 400 quid. And it's beautiful. Okay. Spiegelman Customs has come in with a $5 super chat, and I deserve the shade that you are throwing at me. I really do. Hi, Ben. I'll tell you what. I spent 20 years in the e-com industry as an engineer. If you answer my email, I'll give you 20 hours of consulting for free. Lol. I'm not going to answer your email on camera, but it is okay. So Stephen has found it. I went to answer it on Friday evening, and I couldn't actually find it in the in the mess that was in there. Stephen has flagged it for me, and I will be answering it after this stream. And I will take you up on your kind offer, although I'm sure we won't actually take up a full 20 hours. But yeah, you're awesome. Thank you. And yes, as I said earlier in the stream, I am going to start trying to set aside a certain amount of time every day to actually do admin stuff. I hate it. I hate it with a flaming passion of fiery... I'm out of words now. I like the people. I like you. I like interacting with people. I even like the feeling of having successfully emptied my inbox. But every time you empty your inbox, everybody bloody replies. And I would just rather be in my workshop in normal times. But I'm going to have to grow up and answer emails. It's fine. We're all right. I'm about to cry. Okay. Kevin Kessock says, I've just finished my first kit build. It did a rustic black stain and burned a burst into it. Black satin, arson burst. Thank you for the inspiration. Arson burst. Quick, I want to copyright that. I love it. Quick arson about. That sounds amazing. Please send me photos. Go in the Discord actually and put photos up on the build section. Okay, Beavis Christ said, Ben, I built a shooting board about 3 foot long, 3/4 inch MDF bottom, 1/2 inch plywood top. I built an arch into it, but it's become concave. Can I get it to arch slightly upward again somehow? 3/4 inch MDF bottom. I'm really surprised that has arched in any way, shape, or form. Your best bet is to wow. I mean, I would just hit it with the plane, to be honest, to get the same arch that you want. It's moved in the way that it wants to move. And if you want to change that arch, go take the top section off, plane your arch back in, and then screw the top back to it. It might put it up a little bit as you screw it in, but yeah, that's a strange one. I have not experienced that. Joe has come back with another $5 super chat and said, would you rather build a Death Star inspired guitar or Infinity Gauntlet guitar? Now, those are two universes that deserve some serious consideration. And this is a serious question. I'm going to properly ponder it. I'm sorry for the silence. I think Death Star. Followed by next Pride Month, the Infinity Gauntlet guitar. No, so in all seriousness, in the MCU, I would love to build a guitar based on the room at the end of the Rainbow Road, the name of which I've completely forgotten. I'm just blanking utterly now. I think that would be... It's just so beautiful. Yeah. Asgard, etc. Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, Lindworm Guitars. Ben, if I have to rip off a fretboard, should I just use a router, or is there an easier option? Depends on the glue you've used and etc. I would, and have done in the past, take the frets off, gouge out, just with a chisel, just smack it, gouge out any mother of pearl inlays, etc. And then I use a hand plane, or if you've got a router sled already built, use a router to route 95% of the fretboard off. At that point, if you've used standard wood glue, use an iron to warm it up just a little bit, and then a palette knife to very carefully slice the rest off. Warming up an entire fretboard involves so much heat that you run the risk of warping the neck as well. Warming up 0.5 millimeter of what is at that point veneer to the point where the glue will melt is a much, much quicker process and much, much gentler on the neck and the guitar itself. That's what I would do. Okay, Vulcan Essen is back in with a €5 super chat. Said, "Hi Ben, I have brass sheets 1mm and 0.5mm. I want to inlay them at the curved sides of a Les Paul body. How do I make the brass curve properly? Cheers, V." Love the way you sign off. Okay, there are... I would say go with the 0.5mm for one. I'm going to assume that you do not have... Okay, rewind. Think about a fret bending jig. Think about how a fret bending jig works. You've got two rollers and then a third roller in the middle that goes up and down. Okay. The best, the proper, the professional way to get a curve in a piece of sheet metal like that, if you want that sheet metal to remain perfect and flat, i.e. you don't want hammer marks or planishing marks, you would do it. You're right, Joe, that is the Bifrost. What the hell am I thinking? I need to be drummed out of the guild. You want a roller, and essentially if you don't have that, there is a possibility to do something like that yourself, i.e. get yourself a piece of nicely polished, say, silver steel or something else that's round and hard, and essentially on one side roll it up and down on the one side of the 0.5mm steel, and as you do that, just the tension will close your steel up. You can push it and fold it and mold it onto the guitar itself slowly. The one thing that you need to be absolutely aware of is, as you are working with the metal, as you are hitting it or heating it up and forcing it into a new shape, you are also hardening that metal. It's called work hardening for a reason. And it becomes more brittle and much more difficult to work, and it will spring back into place. So as you're doing this, you have to have a blowtorch to hand, and you have to anneal the brass. I don't know the exact temperature on brass. For example, with aluminium, if you draw on aluminium with a permanent marker, a Sharpie, you heat it up with your fire until the Sharpie disappears and burns off, and that is the right temperature. You've then softened the aluminium back to the point where it can be pliable and can be worked again. It's a different point and a different temperature with brass, but it's the same sort of process. You'll have to heat it up to a cherry red or whatever. Google that bit. But if you have anybody or know anybody who might have an English wheel or something like that, or better yet, a rolling mill, I think they're called. Somebody who makes jewelry will have one, for example. You should be, yeah, that's how I would do it. The Bifrost. I can't believe I forgot what that was bloody called. Dagnabbit. Lindworm Guitar says, thanks Ben, that was basically my plan. Step 1 and 2 are done, third step is missing. I was planning to leave some wood and glue on the same type of wood as a new fretboard. That is even better. I have done that as well, actually. And if it's 2 different types of wood, you can just route a binding channel on and be done with it. Nobody will ever know. Whew. The Anarcho-Luthierist, another name I love, says, I've pulled fretboards and acoustic bridges, and if you can just safely route it off, I do that. Pulling fretboards sucks. I use hide glue now on fretboards for that reason. That's a damn good idea, actually. Hide glue. I miss hide glue. I really love that stuff. Matthias Lindgren says, how good of a material for a nut would horn be? Would it be too soft? It is softer. It does have a different tonal characteristic acoustically, for sure, but I have used buffalo horn in particular quite a lot. Something that you need to be aware of when using it is the grain, believe it or not. If you cut it at the wrong angle, it is too soft. And cut it at the right angle, it works. Now, I can't remember exactly what is the wrong or the right, because it's been a long time, but yeah, absolutely sorted. Ben Timon says, you've said before sweet chestnut is a good wood for guitars. Any idea where is the best place to buy it? I was at Yandles today, yandles.co.uk. They don't sponsor me or pay for anything. I've asked. No, they're a fantastic local company who I like to support. And they have, I don't think they're calling it sweet chestnut, but they've got what looks like sweet chestnut in, and it's just called chestnut at the moment. In fact, there's some pieces with flaming on it, which I was going to buy. I've now told several thousand people about it. Shit. Abort. Yeah, there we go. Creever says, any tips for that scary drilling operation from humbucker cavity to humbucker cavity and to the electronics cavity? I'm really scared to fuck everything up. I've got a 400mm long 8mm drill. Okay, so you've done the right thing, basically. Long drill bit, sight down the drill bit. Obviously, drilling from cavity to cavity is absolutely fine. Drilling into the control cavity via the bridge humbucker, that is scary. And you need to be able to visualize where the drill bit is going and make absolutely certain that it is at a low enough angle that it's not going to pop out the back and it's going to go into the correct place. It is probably a good idea to use a fretboard protector or piece of veneer, but preferably fretboard protector or something metal on the top of the guitar to stop the side of the drill burning into the top, if your angle is low enough for that to happen. But where most people go wrong is they're using too short of a drill bit, and it just kills. Joe has come back in with another super chat and said, just a reminder, Black Widow is now available on Disney Plus, and that's an idea for a guitar design. A Black Widow spider, lol. Literally 15 minutes before the live stream, I was hatching plans with my wife and middle child, at least. And tomorrow evening we are all going to sit down and watch Black Widow. I'm very much looking forward to that. Okay. Okay, Herbsman05 says, good day, Ben from the Philippines. Oh, it's 4 a.m. here. Bloody hell, man. It was fun seeing you work on a banjolele. How about putting your spin on an electric ukulele? That could be fun. Yeah, I did enjoy that, actually. I have had... I've got too many ideas. I've got far too many ideas. But a small project, a smaller instrument like that is something that I've just never done on the channel, and really would be good. So yeah, Inky Guitar says, please say Death Star. I think I did. Feed me questions or give me sleep. Luther first coming with $5 Canadian said, Ben, what thickness of veneer do you use in between neck laminates? They look amazing. An Imperial if you can. I can't. Come on. 0.7 millimeters. 0.7 millimeters in Imperial. Did you see what I did there? No. It's not working. I have, they're very, very, very thin pinstripe veneers. It's the thinnest veneer that I can find. And I absolutely love them. Van Shank Guitars is coming with another $5 Canadian. Thank you very much. I built an SG type guitar over the winter and the neck developed a twist. Still plays fine, but unsightly. Burn or wall hanger? It depends on the twist. And we are, as makers, far more critical of our own work, for one. And chances are most people wouldn't even notice that it has a twist. I mean, hey, it might be way out there, but if the twist is in the correct direction, i.e. in playing position, if the twist is moving away from your body at the nut and then moving towards the guitar, which is often the case, hopefully, that's more ergonomic. And you can just say that you did it on purpose, or at the very least that it was a happy accident. I would 100%, if that is the case, leave it as is and play it. And forget that you're not happy with how it looks. Alternatively, take the frets out, plane out the twist, because as I said earlier, the neck is doing what it wants to do. Essentially, it sounds like the wood wasn't 100% perfectly dried before you built it. And this has happened to me on many occasions. So don't burn it. It can be rescued or used at the very least. But yeah, it's a problem. It's something that happens quite a lot. Guitar Addicts Workshop. All the 12-string talk earlier got me thinking. Excuse me. At the nut with a 6-string, you just use a string spacing ruler to space the strings. But how would you do a 12-string? It's exactly the same thing. It's just offset. So I would, yeah, you figure out the spacing between the um, sister strings. I am tired now. The courses, that's what they're called. So you figure out the spacing between each course of strings, or between the two strings that make up a course, and then take your nut, if it's 43 millimeters or whatever it happens to be, and offset each pair of 6 strings. Period. As long as you're using a crimson nut slot spacing rule, you'll be all right. I have hay fever for some reason. It's a problem. KB says, is making a nut out of Lego a terrible idea or a great one? I suspect terrible. I think that it could work, but you would have to fill the cavity with something solid, because I don't think that the thick bit at the top of most Lego pieces is thick enough for the variation in string heights that you would want to match the radius of your neck. That's the only real problem I've got. And obviously, it's plastic. I mean, plastic nuts are plastic nuts. We see them all the time. It's not ideal, but it could be pretty cool. Joe says 0.7 millimeters equals 0.0275591 inches. Creative Composites says, hi Ben, what's your opinion on Tokai 80s strats? I think they are fantastic. Tokai made some, obviously these good and bad examples, but as with old tools, most of the older Tokais that exist and have survived because they're the good ones that people looked after. Yeah, I'm a fan of Tokai. I really am. Okay, law-abiding citizen says, are there any wood species you refuse to use and why? Personally, I really don't like personally, I don't like using Purple Heart and Iroko and things like that, because I'm predominantly a hand tool builder, and those things just eat my tools. So if I have a choice, I'll avoid them. If not, it just is what it is. I am on the fence about ebony. In spite of what Bob Taylor's doing, I'm on the fence. I would not use, obviously, something like newly felled Brazilian rosewood and stuff like that, Cocobolo. There are huge problems with it, and I'm trying to minimize my use of wood in general, let alone species like that. I've got some incredibly old Brazilian that was cut many decades ago, and I will use that fine. It's already there, it's already been cut. But yeah, other than that, not really. I'll try anything once. Creeverai, could you resend me your question? I've answered so many questions in the last half an hour or so that I can't actually place what your bloody question was now. And I am wiped out. Okay. Robert R says, yes, antique ivory is legal, but it might be hard to prove that it is antique. If you are, obviously you're talking about in the US at the moment, you can use mammoth ivory, which is an option, but yeah. Okay. Attila, I have just got your email. It's popped up. I will reply in a bit. Rabnox says GGBO has a Lego build in it. Yeah, mammoth ivory or hippo ivory, or there are these things, but there are alternatives, and there's no real reason actually I'm not. I am not a militant vegan. I, however, do. I think, I wear leather shoes because they are unarguably better. Fight me in the comments. But there are better options than an ivory nut. They just are. Unless you particularly like the look of an ivory nut. So there we go. Your Real Sage says Tok I or To Kai. I say Tok I, but that's just me. Lisa Green says Balsa. I'm tempted to build a guitar at a Balsa actually, although yes. And we still need to talk, Lisa, about the website. I'm not sure what Luthiers talking about there. I'm going to go over that. Purple Heart is bad for your tools. I wanted to use that in a build. That's from Creeverai. It's if you're predominantly using rasps and files and routers and machines and all of that jazz, absolutely fine. It's just particularly hard, and it means that you have to sharpen your planes more often, like twice as much as you would otherwise. It's absolutely fine, but I would rather at this stage, and I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm constantly asking myself, what would this look like if it was easy? And if I'm given a choice between Purple Heart and mahogany, I'm going to choose mahogany because it's easier to work with, and it just is. So yeah. JC, this is a good question. Why does the wooden fret bending jig cost so much? $225. That's insane. That's 50% higher than StewMax metal jig. Yeah, absolutely. StewMax metal jig is made in China, and it's made out of metal on a CNC machine, and it's cheap. Basically, the Crimson, we offer a metal bending jig in much the same way, although ours has a beautiful handmade and hand polished brass handle, for example, and better bearings for that matter. But the wooden one was a design I came up with many moons ago that takes about half a day to make. It's not easy. In fact, it's a finicky bloody thing, and I wish I'd never done it. But it's a damn fine bending jig. And if you don't want to have a mass-produced CNC'd lump of aluminium that you have to screw to your bench, but would rather have something made by hand in the UK by skilled craftsmen specifically for this job that looks nice, and you happen to want to spend $225 on a jig, that's it. But in the end, the answer really is, yeah, the metal ones are cheap to make. They just are. They're good. They do the same job. But the wooden one is a premium product that's costs a hell of a lot more to make. And yeah, it just is what it is. We don't sell many of them, but every time I take it off the website, I get somebody say, "Oh, I want one of those," and we put it back on and they buy it, and it just is what it is. Law-abiding citizen says, have you ever used gumtree wood / eucalyptus? There should be plenty from Spain and California. I have used eucalyptus before. It was beautiful. Yeah, it was great wood. I also built something out of camphor once, which you can see the connection, I'm sure. That was stunning instrument, but bloody hell. Every time you cut into the camphor, it really got up your sinuses. But the interesting thing about that wood, and this is a digression, is that every time you cut it, if you left it for a day, the natural oils inside of the wood would seal it off immediately. And it took months and months and months and months to dry the wood properly, because it sealed itself and it wouldn't let the moisture that was in the wood out. It was like, I'm keeping this water, thank you very much, that's my water, leave me alone. It's incredible. Robert R. says, teak is also hard on tools because of the silica in the fibres of the wood. And yeah, I agree. JC says, thank you, I didn't consider that. It's one of those things. I absolutely... I would rather you ask the question and get the answer and make your thing than judge me for having some horrifically expensive thing that you don't understand on the website. We make the best tools we possibly can, and that makes them expensive. And you know, my straight edges probably cost the same as, for example, Stu Max, but they're probably 2 or 3 millimeters thicker because we make them better. Period. It costs me, I'm going to pull a figure out of my butt, it probably costs me £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 a year more to ship my stuff because it's heavier, because we're using bigger, thicker, stronger stuff, because we care about the end result, not about, you know, shipping costs. Anyhow, what is the best wood for tool handles? Tar. That's from John Bassett. I would say boxwood. Lisa Green says, have you used torrefied wood, Ben? Yes, I've used torrefied sycamore. I think the build that I did with April Wilkerson, while April Wilkerson and Matt Cremona were at the workshop, had torrefied maple, multi-laminate neck and body, actually, if I recall correctly. And I absolutely love it. That sort of roasted maple kind of a smell and taste. It worked very, very well. It was incredibly dry. Obviously, the torrefication process is essentially cooking the wood in a vacuum and getting rid of all of the moisture, etc. And it solidifies the silicas and minerals and things in the wood. It just makes, yeah, it's great fun. And Martin et al. Are having fun with torrefied spruce as well, pre-aged, pre-toned or something silly. 90s says, Goncalo Alves, it's good enough for Smith & Wesson guns. I did not know that they used that. Yandles, I was there today. Yandles have a bunch of Goncalo Alves. They call it tiger wood. And yeah, it's incredibly fine-grained. It's incredibly... it's just a beautiful, 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 deep, browny, orangey wood with a super fine grain, very strong. Would make incredible fretboards. Yeah. Guys, I am running out of energy, and it's been more than 2 hours, although obviously we had an issue. But anyway, if you have any questions, please, now is your time, because I am going to call it a night very soon. You have been warned. I have spoken. Camel bone nuts are pretty good, and also basically a byproduct. That's from the Anarcho-Luthierist. Richard Garnish said, and if you're going to slaughter a cow, it's disrespectful not to make as much use of it as possible. That is a good point. I mean, frankly, I think we should... Wow, I am turning into a militant vegan, and I'm not even a vegan. I don't know. Wow. Stephen Clark says, I use the Crimson Fret Jig and it's great, very user-friendly even for a first-time user. That's cool. Oh, there we go. Creever-Eyes question. So he says, yes, regarding my question, it is a neck through and the neck is already in place. The question was, of course, drilling from the humbucker cavity to the chumbucker cavity. Yeah, okay. That is more scary, and I am afraid I'm just going to make you even less I've drilled through the back of a couple of guitars in the past, in the very, very, very distant past. But I used to try and make the guitars as thin as humanly possible, and I almost always used through necks. And yeah, that angle, it's a problem. I would suggest, Creverai, that if you are drilling the wiring cavity, the wiring channel between the neck and the bridge humbucker on a through neck guitar, as much as possible, try and go in from both sides. Don't drill from one side all the way through, unless you've got a particularly thick body and your cavities are fairly deep. I would very carefully line up the drill. Mark on the drill how deep you want to go so that it's halfway or just a little bit more than halfway through, and then flip it around and go in from the other side, and the cavities should meet and you should have a nice curve. Going through in one shot is possible, but scary as all hell. Marsha Levine has sent a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Marsha. And she says, just sending my love with a great big heart. I love you too. Thank you very much. We've got a question. Okay. Howdy again, Ben. I had the idea of using some aromatic cedar. Nice. Along with some other much harder and stable woods in an unfinished multi-laminate neck. As I love the smell of cedar. Would this be a good, okay, or horrible idea? Also, am I right in assuming the scent will fade over time from the wood being polished with natural oils from being handled? I love it when you guys answer your own questions. Thanks again for all you do for this community. James Riley, Riley Custom Guitars. Yeah, exactly that. I think that it's not a horrible idea at all. I also want to use easily farmed timbers like western red cedar or aromatic cedars, maybe even pines, etc. I would love to be able to make guitars out of those at the highest levels. And I know a UK guitar company called Gus Guitars uses western red cedar and clads them in carbon fiber. That's all their guitars. It's lightweight but strong, and there are ways to do it. The same thing is what I was going to say first, though. Yes, over a little bit of time, just use and the wood's natural propensity to protect itself, it's going to seal up. However, I mean, you can always just lightly sand it back to get that scent. How long the neck would last, I'm not sure. Probably 20 or 30 years. If you're just hitting it with sandpaper just lightly. But I love natural necks, so go for it. Ooh, we have a new member, Van Shank Guitars. Welcome to Crimson Guitars. Welcome to all that jazz. You've just signed up. You're the first person actually to sign up as a new member for this during this podcast live stream event. Thank you very, very much. And Marsha, just out of interest, your super chat pushed us over £100 of super chats this evening, which is incredible. Thank you very much. I really sincerely appreciate it. All of you guys who support us financially, it makes a huge difference. Ooh, 90s says, I'm making a pale moon ebony neck rest and sanding it reeks to high heaven. There are some woods that smell like a dead animal, and there are certain species of ebony that are exactly that. It's insane, and utterly not what you think. Utterly not what you think. Uriel Sage says, so I have a beautiful piece of highly flamed roasted maple for a neck I'm going to build. Tips on working with roasted woods? I've heard it's particularly chippy. We'll be using mostly power tools. Yeah, go super gentle, and certainly around... Well, let's just throw that on the computer. Is the stream still going? Around the headstock, do not use a router. Don't use a router. use a spindle sander or something to shape the end of the headstock. As you're hitting on a router table, this is where it chips out, especially, as you say, using a roasted wood would do it. And we've got another member, Sean Forsyth, has joined up. Thank you very much. You will not regret it. There's all sorts of extra content and more on the way on a almost weekly basis, if not weekly. So yeah, thank you very, very much for your support, Sean and Van Shank Guitars. Pale Moon Ebony. Okay, guys, 169 people watching, 132 likes. That's about half of what we normally have. So quite a few people are actually watching the football, I would say. Real KH said, oh no, they're talking amongst themselves. Oh, Lisa Green says, change of subject, maybe. Recommend a book for learning finishing at all. There is, hold on, please excuse me. I don't have it here. That's a good book, the Sheffield Knife book. A lot of my books are now at Crimson. I'm setting up a bit of a library for the students to borrow from. If I can guarantee I'm going to get the books back, it's quite scary. I can't remember the name of the guy who's written the books on finishing. There's 2 or 3 books by the same guy. I think he's British actually, and they're fantastic books. The Wood Whisperer guy, Mark. I've heard good things. I haven't actually read his book, but I've heard good things about his book as well. Creever says, I just need to open a tool shop to get all the tools or make friends with somebody who owns a tool shop. But, you know, I mean... Okay, Rabnox, I'm going to mark this as the last question unless something more interesting comes along. Rabnox says, I've got 2 slabs of spalter beech today. Can I bring them down with me to process them down to thickness? They're 120 centimeters by 40 by 4.5. Absolutely, yes. No problems whatsoever. 40 centimeters wide will fit in our big planer thicknesser of awesomeness. I still smile when I see that. And you're going to be meeting my new CNC machine, which I haven't actually even met yet myself. I'm putting it off until I've got a camera filming me because I'm so excited. Van Shank Guitars. Okay, I'm going to close out with you. If you use a spiral bit, it cuts down on the chance of chipping by quite a bit, although I normally use the spindle sander as my dust collection is much better on that tool. Yep, spiral cutters or helical router cutters are much better at reducing chipping and get a better finish on everything anyway. To reduce chipping, bandsaw away the bulk of the waste before you get to the line, and then take very, very small cuts with a good, sharp helical router cutter, and you'll be all right. Anyway, guys, this is absolutely the end of things. Brandy B, come on. Ever built a guitar out of a solid core door? No, but I tried to build a guitar out of a door. I tried to build a workbench out of a door once that I thought was solid, and it wasn't. It was basically made out of cardboard. Which is, I think, what a solid core door is, because it's not solid. Is that one of those misnomers, like Frank Beard? Let me know. If it's solid wood, go for it. If it's not solid wood, go for it too. Electric Lady Guitars, Devon, UK. Hi Ben, what grit used when applying the first coat of oil? I sand my guitars down to 240 or 320 grit sandpaper before applying guitar finishing oil, and if I'm going for a high gloss finish or I need to grain fill with the oil and a slurry of the wood or the guitar's own dust, Then I use 1200 to 1500 grit wet and dry paper to sand the oil into the grain. Brandy P says it's solid. I say go for it. Build it. Why not? It's wood. Wood is wood. And yeah, sounds awesome. All right, and when you do, please send me a photo of it. All right, everybody, I have an email to write and I need to go and sleep. So there we go. Robert Tucker says Fender made a guitar out of cardboard. I mean, there was more resin in that guitar than cardboard, I suspect, but it was an impressive as hell video for sure. So if you haven't seen that, go and check that out. Everybody, I need you to... Ben Time... Come on. I'm trying to get to bed, everybody. Ben Timon says, Taunton's Complete Illustrated Guide to Finishing is my favourite book on finishing. The only downside is that the author is American, but it has very good advice in there. Okay. Well, I'll have to check that out. Everybody, you're amazing. Thank you for watching this instead of football, and I will be back next week. I'm back in the workshop starting to get some builds done. Nebula is coming out. I am going to be doing tool-based videos on Tuesdays, and well, stuff. It's all going crazy again. Overwork? Who cares? See you all next week. I love you. Goodbye. Be good. Make some sawdust. Stop talking about it. Stop.